Happy Holy Day, family. This is Brother Jelani Bay uh, of the Moorish Holy Temple of Science of the World, Free and Sundry Moorish Science Temple of America. I currently serve as National Grand Chief for that particular organization. Um, well, one note is we had a great convention this past weekend. A lot of information was shared. Um, the second thing is I want to mention something. Uh, those of you who are searching, please understand a few things. One, if you represent a jurisdiction, uh, temple, uh, organization, that organization must have laws that are based upon something. Respectfully, beware of those people talking about treaty law, um, U.S. constitutional law, um, federal case law, um, and state statutes as a source for protection of law. When Moors say that they are experts in law, they are experts in Christian law. And that's really what the 5% call non cipher. And is kind of shirk and haram, using the Arabic terms for unlawful and forbidden. And the reason why I say that is um, every religion, and every religion is the basis for a country's or a nation's law. Everyone has their own law. I know, like many, we were told that um, we created the law, we created the U.S. Constitution. You know, the fact of the matter is that document was adopted and framed. And Judge Taney, who was not a racist man, because several years earlier he passed a case where Moors, he made judgment for a case for some Moors in the Baton Rouge Treaty. So he wasn't prejudiced. It's just simple as the person named Dred Scott presented himself as a foreigner or someone out of their proper person, saying he had the name of a Scotchman, and then admitted that he was an African. He was descendant of African slaves. He was property. Well, property can't be seen or heard in real courts, in lawful courts. So that's one problem. That's one problem we have today. Because, out of ignorance or conspiracy, we have names like, James Brown Bay, Lonnie Gilchrist Ill. And that's the same thing as Dred Scott, you know, because that name does not match our nationality. So when he presented himself as Dred Scott, a Scotchman, and admitted that he was an African slave, Judge Taney ruled that that particular case was a plaintiff in error. So as a plaintiff in error, the case was thrown out. All right. So um, that being said, um, anytime you go into a courtroom with a European name and claiming to be other than Christian, you are a plaintiff in error. This is why a lot of our remedies don't work because we're mixing Christian law and making the statements that we are Moors. And we have our own law. Everyone has their own law. depending on what type of Moor you're claiming you are. We as Moorish Americans, we are under the law or the institution of Islamism, and we affectionately coin our brand of law Moorish customary law, much like the Muslims call their law Sharia law. And then you have your halakha courts and Talmudic law from the Hasidic Jews. Um, the Quakers have their own laws and tribunals. The Mennonites, the Mormons, the Book of Mormon, the Latter day Saints, that's their book of law, who they claim they got from an angel Morano. So, you know, these things we have to understand. So when you ask a person what is the source of their law, and they start stuttering and stammering, especially if they present themselves as some type of Moorish leader, uh, just question it, you know, because if you are a Moorish leader and you represent a jurisdiction, then at the moment's notice or immediately after the question is asked, you should be able to explain where your source of power or your source of law comes from. If you cannot, then someone has miseducated you or you are a fraud. Uh, hate to say that, but we're at a place and time where we don't get this together, it won't be together. Um, those of you who think that they have to abide by U.S. law until we get our government together, that is a cop out and that is an excuse. Because as far as Moorish Americans are concerned, um, the Prophet gave us everything we need to be a nation, literally, to be a government, literally. He gave us our own divine constitution and bylaws. He gave us our book of law, the Moorish Holy Quran, that has chapter and verse full of instructions for us and how we are supposed to live. Chapter 31, for instance, is that is like the icon of our penal codes, um, and a guideline for the system of discipline in our society. And these things are not studied enough, or they're overlooked, or they're sugar mouthed over. In other words, they're played very, very light. Another problem we have in our movement, and I've always been this way. If you come and visit Moorish Holy, you're a visitor. At no time, especially if you come from another jurisdiction, at no time would anyone from Moorish Holy attempt to persuade you to leave your jurisdiction and come into Moorish Holy. You don't have to do that. Our demonstration makes you decide where you want to go of your own free will and accord. But we will never coerce you into being a member of our society. Um, so I mean that's what was on my mind. This past weekend was very educational. We did okay for our first time out with the convention, and we're shooting for May 26th, uh, 2023, at another location, and we want to let you know ahead of time that that's what's brewing. You know, so hope to see you there at that one. We're going to keep doing it. I mean, because these things are very, very necessary, and we're changing locations so that those people who were like, for instance, we had it in Gatlinburg, Tennessee. That was too far for some people. You know what I'm saying? So we bringing it to the people. May 26th will be, probably in Connecticut, in our one of our major temples location. And inshallah, God willing, we'll have an equally as good a time as we did, this past weekend. Um, but that's a very serious thing, chapter 31. At a later time, I'm gonna go ahead and do something on chapter 31. It's very necessary that we deal with the chapter on justice because we have tried everything diplomatically in the last 108 years, and I'm talking about from our side of the fence. So we've used love, truth, peace, and freedom in this day and era, this new era time. It's time for justice, both foreign and domestic. In this case, mostly domestic, because the lies have been going on too long. The coercion has been going on too long. The persuasion has been going on too long. When I first came in the movement, I was misguided. I met a lot of people who were confused souls, you know, and I thought about them and decided to do something. So, peace and love, uh, and happy holy day. I didn't forget.